Creativity in the Age of COVID with Dr. Judi Blume and Richard Skipper. It's the only program in which therapy and entertainment come together to show everyone not only how to cope in the age of COVID, but how to be creatively productive through it all. And now, Dr. Judi Blume and Richard Skipper.
Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to Creativity in the Age of COVID. As you can see, I'm here without Dr. Blume today, and I feel naked. I feel that my cohort is not here. And although I do all these other shows without her, I miss her not being here today. She said that if she can get away and she'll get here, she'll make it here a little later, but I'm hoping she's going to be able to make it, but she had other conflicts today that prevents her from being here. But in any case, welcome to today's show. I am so excited because I have three fascinating women who are making a difference. I am telling you, COVID be damned, it's not stopping these three women. And I am going to start right away by bringing Ava Cherry. I am so thrilled to have you on the show. I have been reading about your history, and I am telling you, it should be a movie, first of all.
It will be.
Yes. It is a movie. This is under the umbrella. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And my show is under the umbrella of Richard Skipper Celebrates. And we are celebrating the fact that you have this incredible new book out. But other than the book, what else are you celebrating today?
I'm just celebrating being healthy and alive and vibrating towards all that's positive and all that's good as much as possible, because it's been very difficult because of the COVID to keep all those things together. You know, it's surreal what's happened to us in the last two years. But it's funny, Richard, the minute that it happened, my brain just went into the mode of, I'm going to survive. My family's going to survive. I'm going to help everyone that I can to get through this and stay healthy. And I did that.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting because when Dr. Blume and I are normally here and she's sitting across from me, I always start the show with a random question. And since she's not here today, I'm going to give you a random question. I never look at the question that we start the show with. So God only knows what I'm about to ask you. So here's the random question. And, this is a great question for you. What's the first concert that you ever went to?
Oh, my gosh. The Beatles. Big concert, the Beatles. The Beatles here at our Cubs Field. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I saw them when I was a teenager, and I couldn't. I was in grade school, and I couldn't hear anything because they were screaming so loud. But it was the most amazing thing to watch the Beatles from afar in that place. That was my first wow concert like that.
Yeah, it's very funny. Mitzi Gaynor is a friend of mine, and Mitzi Gaynor was on the Ed Sullivan Show the same night that the Beatles were booked for the first time. And she said that when her agent called her and she said, "Who else is on the show?" She said, "The Beatles." And she said, "Great, nobody's ever heard of them." And she said she's sitting in her dressing room, and all of a sudden she hears this roar, and she thought that New York City was having an earthquake. And she came running out of her dressing room, and it was this most incredible experience I can only imagine.
There was nothing, I have to admit, there was really nothing like that at that time. I mean, maybe Elvis before, and I don't know, wasn't part of that time frame. But when the Beatles came out, it was just adorable. Mm-hmm. And then the songs were just so deep and romantic, and every young girl's dream. It really was that. And I fell in love with them.
Are you getting a phone call?
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's quite all right. Maybe it's the
It's over.
Beatles. Paul McCartney is on the road again, so maybe he's calling to ask you to go on the road with him.
I've met most of them, honey. I've met most of them. So,
is there anybody? I think I'm the only person that's not in your book. Yes. But I want to ask you: at the time that you saw the Beatles, were you already on the path? I mean, you are a singer, but were you already on the path to be a singer when you were seeing the Beatles for the first time?
well, I was on the path in that I was an avid radio listener and loved people like Smokey Robinson and Motown and Diana Ross, and my mom brought me up on Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan and Frank Sinatra and all of that. So I was so into music, singing it all the time in my house. My dad was a trumpet player. So I was around music all the time, and I was thinking to myself. I mean, I was watching Marilyn Monroe movies. I mean, she was like one of my female icons, and that she was just had this beauty and just perpetual beauty, but she had this little girl quality about her that I admired so much. I just love her. Even today, I love her so much.
Mm-hmm.
And she had an innocence and a vulnerability. And I'm not quite as vulnerable as her, though. I'm a little bit more tough skin. But I was on that path of wanting to be involved in show business. Yeah, I would
Was
say
that toughness always there, or did the business make you that tough?
The business certainly made it tougher, but no, it was my mom, and my mom and my dad. I love my dad, but my dad let my mom, set the rules for me and my sister. And my mom was like, "You be strong, you be tough, you don't take no, you know what, because there's going to be people out there that are going to try to hand it to you, especially in that business. And you just hold your own, you respect other people, but you demand respect from them."
Well, let's talk a little bit about the book that you have this incredible new book out that's called All That Glitters. And it's your autobiography. What propelled you to write this book and to write this book at this time in your life?
Well, I think that a lot of people needed to know things about me that they didn't really know, and just saw the surface of me being involved with different artists and acts, and that I had to speak out and say I was very involved. I was influencing some of the people that I worked with as well. And a couple of years ago, let's just say maybe 5 years ago, I would tell a story to someone and they go, "Oh my God, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. All these stories, you have the most incredible stories. You tell these stories." And so I thought about it. And then I met Lisa Torum, who we decided to do that. And the funny thing is, Richard, it took us 2 years to get it all together and stuff. It was like 2 years ago when COVID started. I said, okay, I'm not going to stop working. I'm not going to stop moving forward. I'm not going to stop dreaming about what I want to happen in my life now. At this point in my life, I'm going to write this book. And that's what we did.
Was COVID the impetus for you writing the book?
No. It was the what's the word I'm going to use? It was the drive.
Okay.
Afterwards. It was what made me say, okay, I got to be doing something productive and creative, and then this is a good time to tell my story because people are not out as much, and they're reading things, they're listening to things. Right. So this is the time.
Now, did you keep journals, or was this?
No, but this is the journal.
You were too busy living it.
Huh?
I said you were too busy living it.
Right. And I mean, I didn't document. I mean, if it had only been the age of cell phones and stuff, I would have had so many more pictures than I even have. But it was just like, being with somebody, it's just say like David Bowie. If I'd been walking around with a camera all the time taking pictures of him, he wouldn't have liked that. He wouldn't have thought I loved him, which I did. He would have been like, why is she taking pictures of me all the time? She's trying to catch me in some kind of incriminating situation or what? How people are, especially people that are very successful. So I didn't, I didn't do those things then, but I wish I had.
Well, Ava, I want to ask you, I mean, I have been very, very fortunate in my life and career to have, as I'm not going to drop any names, but I've been able to have some major names in this business become very good friends of mine. And those people that are so big, and David Bowie, let's face it, was one of the biggest names in show business. People have this iconic image of who these people are, and they are iconic. What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have of David Bowie?
Well, I mean, there'd be a few because I think that a lot of people saw him as a very cold person, but he wasn't. He was very, you know, could be very loving. Of course, because he's a Capricorn, so that's an executive, more serious sign. So he was more serious about things. But I think my involvement with him made him more like. I remember once we were getting out of a limousine, and we got out of the limousine. We started to walk, and all these fans saw him, and they went running up to him and David, David, and he recoiled because he was afraid they were going to try to attack him. And I said, Dan, I turned to him and I said, David, these people love you. These are your fans. They love you. Don't be so afraid of everyone. And then he started to relax. He
Wow.
started to, and he said to me one time, you make me feel more relaxed in that situation. I think that people, think another misconception is that he was, some kind of god, because even now, some of his fans, they worship him. They worship him like he's a god, and they speak as though they could not live if they just could not talk about him every single day of their lives. And I love them for loving him, but he was just normal. I think that as he got older, he became more normal. And he showed people, hey, I'm just David. I mean, I've done some great creative things, but I'm still flesh and blood and feelings and emotions the same as everybody else.
And from writing this book and completing this book, I always ask, when did you know that the book was, for lack of a better term, ready to give birth? When did you know that it was ready for the public to have this book?
Well, because the girl that I wrote it with, Lisa, she would read to me, the chapters after she finished doing what she was doing. So the chapters, chapter by chapter, blah, 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 blah. And then we sent it out to some people to, just some excerpts to see what they thought. And everybody was, oh, I love this. Is there more? Is there more? And then, we finally got towards the end of it. And then we said, no, it's done. It's done.
And what did you learn about yourself from writing this book?
I learned that I could tell great stories, first of all, that people would listen and people were very taken in, pulled in by what I was saying. And partly because it was true and not fiction, not lies or made up. But I learned even about myself, going back through my journey, that everybody has to have a journey. Everybody has to have a beginning. Anybody that you see that's successful now, believe it, unless they're 5 years old, they've been in the business for a while. The ones you see that are grown, they were probably doing commercials, child actors, child singers, whatever. And that, that my experience, even though some of it did not turn out exactly the way that I wanted, was so beautiful, so like a fairy tale for me, the things that happened to me and the people that I met and the journeys that they helped me to continue to be on.
Well, I feel very generous today, and I feel like giving away a free copy of your book. And I'm going to give away a copy at the end of the show. All you need to do is, when you leave your comments, use the hashtag caring, because I believe that we all need to be a little bit more caring in the world that we're living in, especially today. I'm sending prayers around the world today. We
Yeah,
all
here's to Ukraine.
Yes,
Yes.
and that's why I chose this word today, caring. So I want to bring on our next guest, Jodi Lynn McClintock. I mean, what an amazing career she has had as well. Phenomenal actress. She is also a teacher, and she has this. Uh, I'm going to pull this quote up. A twist on George Bernard Shaw. Those who can do more teach. Jodi, thank you for being here. Meet Ava Cherry. You know,
Hi, Jodi.
Hi, Ava.
before. Jodi, I want to ask you, as we start to look back over your career as well, let's go back to the last 2 years, especially. What is the biggest impact that COVID has had on you as an artist? And how has it impacted you on a level that may be a little bit more personal beyond what all of us have been going through right now?
Oh, that's a great question. When we got locked down on March 12th, to me, I sat here and thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? If the theaters have closed, that's my home. What am I going to do without a home? And I remembered one of my great acting mentors, Earl Gister from the Yale School of Drama, used to say when we were working on a scene, if you can't change the what, find a new how.
Mm.
And I thought, that's it. That's exactly what I need to do. And I'd been reading a bunch of poetry, and I had a friend who had gone on a pilgrimage to the Camino. And I thought, I'm going to go on a pilgrimage of authenticity.
Mm.
And so that's what really the last 2 years have been about, is not only finding new hows of how to create and be an actor without a stage, without a platform, and using the Zoom miracle, and all these technological things are extraordinary. But it's also been really personal for me. I'll tell you a funny story that really shaped something. Today, when you were asking Ava about what she's celebrating, I have 2 things I'm celebrating today. Well, actually 3, because being here is one of them.
Well, thank you.
But today is day number 340 that I have been consistently walking.
Oh.
And when I went to the Javits Center to get my first vaccination, I was walking with a cane, and I remember, and it was like a maze in the Javits Center. They sent you to one area, then another. They checked your health insurance, blah, blah, blah. And I remember commenting to my sister who lives in Michigan. I said, my God, that's the most I've walked in almost a year.
Mm.
But you got to do something about that.
Fantastic. I'm so happy to hear
You
that.
got to do something about that. And so she sent me one of these virtual walks. And so literally I started walking in my back garden, which, because I live in Queens, I'm very lucky that it's 25 paces long and 8 paces across. Sometimes I go in circles. Sometimes I do spirals because it's more Celtic and spiritual. Sometimes I do eternity symbols. But I walked every day and meditated and did virtual walks. So I've now walked the Ring of Kerry, the Camino de Santiago, London, Paris, and I am now working my way the length and breadth of England. And what I'm really hoping, I got 25 more days, is that I can make it to 1,000 miles.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations.
So that has kind of mixed in with all of the other wonderful things. I started writing. You asked Ava about journaling, and I started facilitating a group on Zoom for the Actor Center of fellow actors who also didn't have a place, or artists who don't have a place to go. And then I had my students, and it goes back to the quote. I always hated that Shaw quote, that those who can do and those who can't teach, although God knows I've had quite a few of those teachers in my life too.
Well, yes.
But I always felt that the teachers who had actually been there, who had been doing the work, who were creatives themselves, were the best teachers ever.
Mhm.
And so I changed the quote and said, those who can do more, teach. And so it's that. And so that's why I was so excited to get the invitation to come and talk to other artists. And there's a spiritual community that
Well,
we're all trying to create.
I want to tell you how spiritually connected you and I are right now. And because there's, I went to Provincetown this past summer, and if anyone's ever been to Provincetown, it's a walking town. But I would walk a block, and then I would have to sit down because I was having severe back problems. And I started doing these live programs because of COVID. And I'm almost up to 400 of these.
Wow.
But for the beginning parts of COVID, up until I went to Provincetown in July, I was pretty much 8 hours a day in front of my computer and not getting a lot of exercise and just doing this. So I would go to, so when I went to Provincetown, and I have a very rambunctious puppy who wanted to go on the beach and everything, and I just didn't have the energy. I came back, I called my doctor. He said, get on the scales. I was 265 pounds. And he said, you got to lose the weight. Well, I'm proud to say I lost the weight. I go for a walk every single morning. A book that I recommend to everyone, if you don't know it already, Judi, is The Listening Path by Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist Way. Katie, who you're going to be meeting in a few moments, is part of a book group that I lead. And that book we went through a few months ago. And so you and I have been on the same walking journey, Judi, but on opposite ends of the spectrum. So congratulations. I'm proud.
Congratulations, Jill.
Thank you. What's wonderful too, and I'm sure you'll get to this, Richard, because your shows too do this, but I was then asked, someone who knew I was doing this, because like you, I would never have had the energy to do this. I wouldn't have even tried. And I've stuck with this longer than anything in my life. So it's pretty fabulous. But what was wonderful is a woman who had played my daughter 5 years ago in a show said, I understand that you're walking now. And I said, yes. And she said, would you join the Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS walk? Walk, run.
Wow.
And so to do that and to earn money for people who were suffering from COVID, who were suffering from AIDS, who needed services, who needed groceries, and to use your steps not only for your own betterment,
For the
but
world.
for someone else's, that's pretty special.
That's
Put it out
incredible.
there.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
That's incredible. So what have you learned about yourself from the walking that you said this is something that you, I every morning, I set my alarm clock with the sunrise, and I get up and I go for a 30-minute walk every morning. That's the first thing I do every morning. So do you have set times that you do your walking, or?
Most of the time, I'm like you, I do it in the morning, but sometimes life intervenes. So you have to, and thank God I have a loving husband who understands why I have destroyed the grass out there by my walking. And the problem is that sometimes it is a sea of mud now, particularly these days where we go from 60 to 30 to, and so I've had to expand my repertoire a little bit. Sometimes I go around the block because, like you, I've heard you say in previous episodes that you're kind of a recluse, and I'm still pretty much in isolation. And I will go around the block here in Queens or take a little thing, but I also, am just starting to find other little things. My mother had been a dancer, and I always felt like dancing should be a part of every day as well.
Absolutely. Well, Judi, I think that speaking of walking, that you're going to follow in Ava's footsteps. I think there's a book there.
I think you're right. I've actually started to write. So I think I got a grant from the New York City Artists Corps, and I was able to write my first play.
Wow.
And when I was journaling, it came out as poetry. So I actually have 2 or 3 things that I'm composing, and so then I'll come back and celebrate that.
Oh, absolutely.
And I get to Ava's point.
Yes. Have you been a writer? Do you write a lot, or have you kept journals as well?
Only the last 2 years, really.
It's amazing. I mean, we talk about, COVID and, how it's changed. I want to bring Katie on. She's sitting very patiently in the wings. Katie, who is a phenomenal singer in her own right, who, if you don't mind my saying, Katie, came into singing late in her life. And this is a new direction for her. She is just in the last couple of years started doing her own cabaret show here in New York. Just did a phenomenal tribute to Karen Carpenter, which received rave reviews, and is now appearing with Maria Corsaro. And they have a new show that they're doing. And I think you have, is it 1 or 2 shows coming up, Katie?
Well, actually, I just finished the show with Maria Corsaro. It was called Love Is. And I have one more show of my Carpenter show called Yesterday Once More. It's at Pangea in the East Village. So that's on March 26th, Saturday, March 26th. That's the final performance of that show. And then I'm working on other things moving forward. And going to do backup for Sue Matsuki at her 54 Below gig on June 2nd. So that'll be fun.
So I want to ask you, because we're talking, Judi and I, and you've been listening in the wings as well. We went through the listening path and Julia Cameron's book. And as you know, I'm a big proponent of Julia's and Morning Pages. And did you, going through this experience of the listening path, did it change the way, especially going through this book group with all of us, going through it with COVID, did it change the way that you look at just going for a typical walk, if there's such a thing as a typical walk?
Well, sure. I've always been a walker. I don't even have a driver's license anymore. I'm a terrible driver. I've voluntarily removed myself. But I've always walked whenever I could. And but I think I'm seeing things a little differently in the sense that I'm looking more of what's going on around me and not staying in my head like sometimes I do, because I think it's good to do both when you're out. I've never been one to put on headphones or anything like that when I walked, but I think I'm just more aware of keeping an open mind to what's going on around me too, and seeing more of that. I've told you I kind of combine it sometimes with my artist date, which is another thing. Just trying to look at what shops are open and who can I support going forward, because the city's been hit as small businesses have been hit. So I just try to see what's going on out in my neighborhood, or just around the city in general, wherever I am.
So, doing shows that you have been performing during COVID, uh, what are the pluses? And there are pluses because I look for blessings in everything, and the negatives that we all go through of doing a show at a time where there are a lot of guidelines and trepidations with doing a show. What are some of the things that you've learned about yourself during doing a show during an experience like COVID?
Well, first of all, my first shows during this were virtual. Later in 2020, we did start meeting. Maria and I, in a small pot of people, started meeting with Gregory Toroyan, our musical director, and Skip Ward and David Silliman, who are bass and drums of Gregory's trio. We started meeting at Gregory's studio and working on some things. So first we did do a Christmas show virtually, then we did a Valentine's Day in 2021 virtually. And just because we wanted to keep things going and see how we could do that and how would this really work. Then we did move into live performances in the fall of 2021. So that was trickier because, of course, there were checking for vaccination at the door, making sure people had masks. When we first started going out and performing, actually, originally Sue Matsuki and Gregory Toroyan had the open mic at Pangea where they were in the front room and they could keep all the windows open. And in the back room where we're doing the shows, they do have windows that they can open. Sometimes, of course, now it's getting colder, but they did make every effort to have more space between tables. People were sitting a little bit farther back from the stage. Things like that. But I think the challenge was getting people to come out at all. So some people were ready and some people weren't. And a lot of people were apologizing to us saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't come." But we said, if you don't feel comfortable, don't come. We're doing the show anyway, whether anybody's there or not, because we were always videotaping actually too, so that we could share later with people that couldn't come. Yeah, I mean, it's just we didn't want to make anybody uncomfortable that didn't want to come out yet, and all of us were vaccinated, and we'd also been tested a lot. We made sure that we were consistently being tested, so that's how we made it through, and none of us got sick through
Thank God.
this time.
Thank God.
So we've been very lucky. So it worked for us, and you just have to be smart about it and go with what your instinct is. And if that's to stay home, then stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a question that I want to ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Ava. We got through the first wave where we thought it had ended, and then Omicron, reared its ugly head, and we were pulled back in. What did that do for you emotionally? I'm assuming that you're finishing a book, or the book is finished. You think you're going to be doing a book tour, I'm assuming. You're getting ready to go out in the world again and start doing these things. And then the universe, God, whatever, says, not so fast, pull back a little bit. What does that do for you psychologically, and how do you get through that?
It's funny you asked that question because it did affect me. So I was like, what? Because I'm getting ready in April to do a big festival, a Bowie festival in Ireland, and they had booked me for it. And then we were waiting, and then they said, "Oh, everything is okay." And then Omicron happened. And then I was like, oh my God, this is awful for us people in the entertainment industry, us singers, girl, you know what I'm talking about, that, we didn't get to work as much as we wanted to because of it. And I want to do this show. This is going to be an incredible festival in Bowie, Ireland festival. And I said, no, it can't happen. I just made up my mind that it was going to be okay. They pushed it back to April 13th or whatever. And I just kind of said to myself, I'm going by hook or by crook. But I mean, obviously I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was hoping and praying that Omicron would have ramped down, which it has, and that I would be able to do this wonderful show. But it really did make me think, oh my gosh, we are so vulnerable to all these variants. And and we don't know when these things are going to happen. But I fully protected myself, which I know you all have.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm telling you, I'm D3, I'm zinc, I'm vitamin C, I'm herb, you know, wheatgrass. I'm everything. I go out of here, I feel like just, you know, full of everything because I've girded myself, honey, plus my mask. I'm like, I'm not getting anything from anybody. And, you know, it makes it difficult also to, on a personal level, to be with somebody, you know, to be with somebody you want to be with that you don't know real well, because you know, I mean, I'm not afraid person at all, but you know, I don't want to stick my tongue down somebody's throat that I didn't might have some kind of virus, you know. So it's like you just kind of get a little bit, you know, girding yourself against everything, you know.
Absolutely. And what about yourself, Judi? I mean, you and I basically have been pretty much secluding ourselves. So what has that done for you psychologically?
It was hard when Omicron happened because I had just made my first tentative reaching out.
Mm-hmm.
And my great nephew, who was born about 2 weeks before our lockdown, I had not seen him, and I finally saw him in November after Thanksgiving. And I thought, oh, this is wonderful. We'll be able to forge, you know, this whole, because I've been reading him stories over Zoom and things. And I thought, now we'll be able to do this in person so that he doesn't look at me like, who is this strange woman? And then Christmas came and we couldn't go see him because he's going to be 2. And
where is he?
He's down in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Okay.
And he's not vaccinated. So it would kill me to think that I brought something even. So I just said, no, we're staying home again. It's another holiday. And I think that coupled with, it just, I don't know, Ava, if you felt this, but at that time, there were suddenly a lot of deaths. And some of them were COVID, some of them were cancer, some of them were other reasons. And it just seemed so debilitating. And it feels like you have to fight even harder to connect. And you find your tribe of people that are fellow sensitives, and you go, please help me through this. I am really not doing well today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
She's right.
Yes. What about you, Katie?
What was the specific
Well, the
question?
question is, I mean, we think we're getting through this thing. I mean, all of a sudden, I remember here in New York that the mask mandate was being lessened and everything, and then all of a sudden, Omicron is reared its head, and it's like not so fast there, everyone. What did that do for you psychologically as you were gearing up with several projects at once as well?
Well, I was always cautious, and I continue to wear my mask, and I still do, and I'm comfortable doing that. And I'm like I said, I have a small pod of people that I'm very comfortable with, and then other than that, I'm very cautious and for myself and for whoever I'm around. So the thing that's been difficult for me has been the same as Judi. I have there's been great nephews and nieces that I have not seen. I have a very large family in Cincinnati. I was not able to go back till this past summer to see my parents, and my father was not doing well. He's in a stable place right now, but I missed seeing him, and I'm leaving to go back there again in a couple of weeks. But I haven't been able to see. There's 4 babies I haven't seen. And so that's going to be 2 of them were just born in the past,
and they're all
months.
hers.
But they're not.
No, I'm joking.
I mean, I have a very large family, so that sounds crazy. But there are 4 that I have not met yet. So I hope to on this trip, but I still, even when I'm there, which I was last summer, I was not able to because of the fears of getting too close to them, and so I might not meet them this time. I don't know. So that's the part that's difficult.
You will, Jodi. You will.
There was one
Yeah.
point where I went to see my dad. I went home twice last summer, and at one point there was a COVID scare in the rehabilitation center where he was, and I could only see him by standing outside the window and
Oh,
waving.
Oh,
So this time I do hope to see him in person.
yes. Well, I hope so as well. I want to ask each of you a question, and I hope I'm not going to put you on the spot, and you can always say, I'm going to take the fifth on this question if you want to. But we're living right now in a world where there are a lot of things that may be frustrating you about what we're going through. And with the frustrations that we're dealing with, and sometimes I know that for myself, I just have to take a deep breath, step back and go, okay, I walk to the other side of the street. With the frustrations that get to you, Ava, how do you deal with the frustrations, and how do you process the things that get you frustrated as you're going through this difficult time that we're all going through right now?
wow, Richard, you're asking all the right questions, darling, because just the other day I had a frustrating moment. No, I mean, even though things are going well on a career level, I do get frustrated because, well, I think here in Chicago, it's been snowing and snowing and snowing. So that's kind of depressing to me. I hate the snow. And so it keeps me from doing some of the things that I would like to do because of the snow. But I think for me, dealing with frustration, I do a lot of meditation. I read so many things, positive injections into my spirit. I listen to beautiful music and music that I love. And I sleep and I eat well, because I think that what you put inside your body is going to help your whole body, your psyche and your physical body. I eat really healthy. I work out in the gym, and that gets off some of my frustration. I spend 2 hours in the gym, and I come out and I go, I can lick this. Whatever is bothering me, I can get through this, and it usually does help me. But also my mom, she's 88 years old, and she's so loving, and so always has been. When you read the book, she's been so inspirational in my whole life, in every part of it. That she says to me, don't worry, it's going to be okay. You can make it. You be strong. She's 88. She's telling me that. And I'm like, Mom, I hope I get to be 88 like you. You know, I hope I get there and more. I said, but I think also sleep, if you've got to get proper rest, because if you don't, that's going to only make you more frustrated, more depressed and whatever. Sometimes when I'll say to my mom, hey, Mom, let me talk to you tomorrow after I get some sleep, because right now I'm just not in the frame of mind. And she says, I understand. And I sleep and I wake up and I can deal with it. So everybody has a different way, but that's how I deal with it.
Now, before I move on to you, Judi, I've got a question for you from Arjan Von Gent. And the question is, I was wondering how long it took to write your complete story, and if the process of writing brought up some forgotten memories.
How long it took me to write the complete book?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it took 2 years. And of course I did. I went through, I mean, you know, working with Luther Vandross and all the people I've worked with besides Bowie. Yeah, it took me through some very emotional moments about Bowie, because, you know, he married Iman. He was married to her for 20 years. But I swear, it's just some of the things that happened between us are like it happened yesterday, and I remember them, especially when I look at photographs of us and things. Yeah, it brings up some really incredible memories. It really does. And some of those memories get me through it. Really, they do. So yes, I do. Yes, Arjen. Yes.
Wow. Thank you, Judi. With you as well, the frustrations and how you process them.
I do a lot of the same things Ava was talking about in terms of music, listening to different poetry, lectures, that kind of thing, meditation. The biggest frustration I've had, though, has been, I really thought with COVID we would have a complete reset of our industry, of our art.
Mm-hmm.
And what was so disappointing was to see all these people running back. Let's get back to normal. And I was like, there is no normal anymore. We have to create a new normal. And I had so hoped the business part of this would change. And so the frustration was, come November and December and January, and you heard people who were starting to audition and do things, and you're like, don't compare. Don't compare. Your path is a different path now. You have to make your own path. And I'm meeting enough people that I go, oh, you know, it might be a lot of people rushing to get back, but there are enough people who have changed, and we are creating the new path.
Yes.
Yes, that's great.
That's really, but it's so hard. It's so seductive. I don't know if you know that, but it's just like, she got that opportunity? Oh, well, maybe I should have. Well, I really want that. Oh, and then to go, stop it. Stop. You really need to go back to that? Did you really want? And that worrying, the worrying is the thing that, if I could erase that from my life, I'd be a very happy person.
All of us, I think. Absolutely. And Katie.
Well, with frustrations, I do agree with Ava. It's like sleeping and taking care of yourself in all ways is really important. And with Judi, yeah, I don't think that things are going to be the old normal. We don't know what the new normal is going to be. I mean, even though I pushed forward to do shows while this was going on, or to start shows while this was going on, because I was fortunate enough I have another job, and I was still employed. And so I was working from home. I had a check coming in. I had friends who were musicians and singers who had nothing coming in. And I said, well, let's start my show. Let's get something together, and then we can, see where this goes. And so that was great. I felt that was really good to keep that community going and to have those resources that I had. Not like I have a lot. My job is at a nonprofit, so it's not like I have a lot. But I mean, I had enough to keep things going and to work on this. So that felt really good to me. And it's not the new normal in the sense also that I don't rule out doing virtual shows again. I mean, all that we learned about being able to do things virtually. Maria and I did our original Valentine's Day show, which we did last year virtually, gave us a whole new audience. I mean, people that are friends and family from outside of New York City that could never see us perform how we do, they were able to log on and see this happen. And that was really great. So, and a lot of other people that didn't know us at all, it just sort of, made the rounds a bit. And that was really fun for us, and a way to share our love of music and the joy. And so we'll see what the new normal is. But I think everything that we've learned about doing things virtually is going to be combined with the in-person live. And we'll see where we go. We just have so many more options now, and the community that expands the community. So it's great.
Absolutely. I want to ask: are there certain behaviors that you have developed during COVID that you just can't seem to shake? I'll start with you, Ava.
No, the behavior is just being in a regime of, every day that I can, I work out, I work on my music, I work on networking. I mean, I have a set thing that I do every single day. I make sure I have my protein drinks and my herbal drinks and whatever. So no, my thing every day is I wake up, I just do what I normally do, but it's always pointed towards health now, health of mind, body, and spirit. And I tell you, when I goji berries and all kinds of herbs and whatever, and I feel great. I mean, there's people out there that don't feel good. I feel better than I did 20 years ago.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, because I take care of it, because I know that even though there's other elements, it starts from if you feel good physically, if you don't, and mentally. So and one feeds the other, especially the food to the mental. And if I don't do, if I want to eat like really terrible things, a big piece of chocolate cake and some fried greasy chicken, but I don't do it. I don't do it. I just, I go to people's houses and they're serving all these foods, and it might even be good food, but it's not cooked the way that and I'll say no, and they'll go, "How you gonna turn this down?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." Then, well, you got really great willpower. I do. Once I set my mind to something, I stick with it.
Mm-hmm. That I've picked that up myself, so that's great. What about you, Judi?
Well, it's interesting, when you talk about the chocolate cake, there are still things, I go, oh my God, yes, that and a glass of wine would be so wonderful. And I have to say, when there have been those waves, like if I get a phone call that someone has passed, or I feel that almost overwhelming fear comes riding over me again, then I'll go, do you really want to self-medicate with the wine? Do you really need the chocolate cake? And sometimes I'll go, you know what? It says if you cut this cake into 6, it's this. So you can have this, but you can't have the whole cake. Or so that self-care, I think you're talking about, is really, really important. And you can't share your gift if you don't take care of you first. And I think back, before this all happened, this era, and when you were on a plane, and they tell you, put your mask on before you put the child's on. And I think it's that whole thing of, you've got to fill your well, or else it's going to be dry and there's nothing to give someone else.
That's right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's absolutely right. Katie?
Well, habits. I feel like I eat well, but I still like the cake. I'm working on that.
Honest to God.
I'm working on that. But about habits that I have acquired during this COVID lockdown, I started having sort of a set appointments to check in with certain friends and family, and I've kept up with that. And I think that just making sure that I'm in touch with friends in various ways. And that makes me feel good that I know what's going on, with my immediate group, and then, in each circle, going out in the waves, that just making sure that the community is okay that you're involved in. I think people do pay more attention to that now. So I hope to keep that as a habit.
That's wonderful. I am going to bring this page on here. I'm going to add this to the stream here. And I'm letting everyone know the word for today is caring. And I'm going to talk about that for just a moment. And I'm going to ask each of you one more question. And while I'm doing this gives everyone a chance to enter the contest one more time. If you've already entered, you don't need to do it again, because it will not give you another chance to win. But if you haven't entered already, all you need to do is put in #caring for a chance to win Ava's book. And I'll take care of it. But Ava, could they get an autographed copy of your book?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to get that, because I had the same when I was the pre-orders of my book in like October. I promised people, well, I signed a whole bunch of stickers with, and then I sent them to the publisher, but then some of them didn't get there and they were complaining about it. But then today, somebody sent the book and said, here's her signature, which I thought was really great, because I've been really pushing towards that. However you want me to do it,
If I send it to you, then we can, and then we'll get it.
No, don't send me the book. I'll send you a sticker that says that I signed with whoever's name that got the book.
That'll be great. Easier. So we'll do that. We'll do that. I'm going to ask each of you one last question, and then we're going to each have our closing remarks. One thing that's very important for all of us right now is a sense of community. And I want to ask each of you what you think is the most important quality to have in a friend. And I'll start with you, Ava.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know. You said the most important qualities. There's a few, but I think a friend is a friend no matter what you go through, whether it's good or bad, that they support you, not necessarily materially in any way, and they just support you and are there for you. I have a friend that I've known for like 50 years now, and we're friends. We don't speak to each other all the time. They live in Germany now and whatever, and I've known them for that long. But when we do speak, they know that when they don't hear from me, I'm working, I'm busy or whatever. But if they reach out to me, I'll reach back. And when we speak, we're like we never separated, because that's what our friendship will never be until we die. We'll be friends because they know that my feelings are always going to be the same for them. So I think that friends need to know that even though you might be busy, even though you might be doing things, that you love them and they know who they are, and that nothing can change that. Nothing.
That's wonderful. Judi?
One thing I'm thinking about is patience, that none of us truly knows what's going on, even in our best friends' lives completely, or how they're feeling. And so if they don't get back to you, or if you don't get the kind of response that you would like, sometimes you have to say, but perhaps they're going through something, particularly now. And so I think patience is important, and also being able to distinguish between those who are in spirit and those who are stuck in ego, and being able to differentiate that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well said. Well said. And Katie?
Well, I would say just having each other's back, being there for each other, supporting each other, being accessible when you need to be accessible, as Judi and Ava were speaking of, but knowing that I agree. There are friends that you may not speak to as often, but you're there for them when they need it, and that can go over many years, and hopefully all of your life, that you have a few friends that are lifelong friends. But it's they say it's harder to make friends when you're older, but I've met some really wonderful people that later in my life that are really dear friends. And I think whether old or new, that if you're caring of each other and supportive of each other, that you can meet friends at any time of your life, and you should be open to that. That's the thing too. You have to be open to it. So
totally agree.
That is so on the money. I'm going to show you how this works. We're going to give away a book, and I'm going to do the drawing, and you will see my hands are here. So I have nothing to do with picking the winner. And we're going to see who the winner is right now. And it's Howard Tucker, my dear friend, Howard Tucker. So Ava, you'll get you'll just sign a sticker, get that to me. I'll give you my address. And
Howard, I'm going to give you a big, juicy lipstick kiss on it too.
And then I'll get that to you. Don't go anywhere for a moment, everyone, because I'm going to give you all a chance to have a final word. I want to thank you all for being here today. I'm sorry that Dr. Bloom could not be here, but she's missed a phenomenal show. Ava, I want you back in April. I want to do a full show about All That Glitters, if you'll come back.
Of course.
Yes, because there's so much that I want to talk one-on-one about the book, if you'll come back, without putting you on the spot right now.
Well, I'm going to be gone from the 13th until the end of April. So can we do it in May?
We'll do it in May. Okay. We'll go over some dates. We'll figure something out.
All right, Jerry.
I'd love, and by then I'll have the book and have a chance to read it. So
yes,
that'll be great. But I want to thank you all for being here. If this was your first time here at Richard Skipper Celebrates, I hope it will not be your last. Please subscribe to this channel. My goal is to celebrate. It's to celebrate art, to celebrate artists, to celebrate life. And to celebrate artists and their body of worth, because I believe that everybody is worth celebrating. That's what my show is about. I picked the word caring today because I believe that there's a lot of turmoil in the world today. As you all put your heads on your pillows tonight, think that there are people that went to sleep last night and woke up in a different world today. So take a moment to think of those people and to think about how lucky we are right now that we have each other and that we can have a better world, but we all need to be responsible for what we put out in the world. So
Yes.
that's what it's all about for all of us. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. So this is what I'd like you all to do. I'd like you to go to Amazon.com or your favorite bookseller, and I'd like you to order 2 copies of All That Glitters. I'd like you to keep 1 copy for yourself, and then I'd like you to go to your Facebook friends list, and the 6th name that pops up, send a copy to them as well, and tell them all about Ava, because it is an incredible story. It's an amazing story, and people need to read this. So let's spread that love around, and then everybody come back in May, and you'll know a little bit more about the story, but we're going to dig a little deeper. I want to thank you all for being here. As my dear friend David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure that you bring a skipper along. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave the screen, and I'm going to start with you, Katie. And you, anything you want to say about anything that we talked about that you want to build upon, or anything we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message you want to put out to anyone who's watching. It'll be followed by Judi. And then Ava, you're going to have the final word today. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the final credits will end. Thank you all, and everybody, make it a better tomorrow. Goodbye. Thank you. Katie, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, I thank you, Richard, for inviting me to this episode of your show. I do want to show everyone I have Richard Skipper's mug here of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Order your own. I also want to thank Ava and Judi. It's been a pleasure to meet them and hear their stories. I will definitely order your book, Ava. I look very forward to reading that. It's very exciting. And I want to thank everyone for watching and wish them well. And I hope they all had their own pod of people that they relied on and took care of over this past 2 years. And so peace and love to everyone.
I just want to say that there are mysterious, wonderful connections that connect us all. Like when Katie talked about the Carpenters, that was my first concert. So when Richard talked about your first concert, that was my first concert, seeing Karen and Richard Carpenter. So you see, this was meant to be. I am so thrilled to have been here with Ava and with Katie and with Richard, because I think it's all part of the celebration of life and art. And I would say, please, please read a little Shakespeare every day, because that way, or poetry, because that way inspiration lies, and inspirare is the breath, but it's also inspiration and it's the soul. And if we keep holding on to that, we might just make it through.
I'd like to say first, thank you so much, Richard, for this wonderful show. I enjoyed it so much, and I'm so happy to be talking about other things than just me as an artist, or, you know, and Jodi and Katie, you guys were wonderful, and God bless you in your further career, furthering in your career. And I'd like to end with saying, listen, we've got to give more love, people. We've got to love more. We've got to not be so selfish. We've got to know that we're all we have. This planet's all we have. If we don't take care of it and each other, we're doomed. We've got to have humanity. We can't let things like racism and injustice take over and become some horrible cold communities. You know, we really have to dig in and do more and not just talk about it. We've got to do it. And we have a responsibility, Katie and Judi, because we're artists, we can communicate this. Bowie used to always say to me, you know, I can communicate many things to people because I'm an artist. And he did. And they still have it. So all I say is I love everyone. I'm sending blessings and love and health and peace to everyone. Love you all. God bless.